I found something terrifying in the Library of Congress basement during my last week of work, and I'm still trying to process everything that happened, but I need to tell someone. I used to work as a night shift archivist at the Library of Congress, and something happened during my last week there that I can't explain. I've never believed in ghosts or anything supernatural, but now, I honestly don't know. First, some background. I got hired as an archivist in the rare books division about a year ago. Night shift wasn't my first choice, but hey, better pay, and it looked good on my resume. I actually liked how peaceful the building was at night. The Library of Congress is this massive, beautiful old building, but after dark, it's a completely different place. Usually it was just me, a few other staff members, and Marcus, this really nice security guard who's been there forever. Everything was normal until about 2 weeks ago. I'd already put in my notice because I got offered this amazing position at another institution. That's when the weird stuff started happening. It began with these catalog cards. For context, the library still keeps this ancient card catalog system in the basement. It's not used anymore. Everything's digital now, but we keep it for historical reasons. I was down there digitizing some Civil War documents when I noticed these cards on my desk. At first, I didn't think much of it, but then I realized they were the exact same cards I'd filed away earlier. Like the exact same ones. This happened 3 times in one night. I kept putting them back, but they kept showing up on my desk. The 4th time, they were arranged in a pattern. Guys, I know how this sounds, but they spelled out words. Help then below and 1897. That date bothered me, so I looked it up in the construction records. What I found freaked me out. In 1897, 3 workers vanished while they were excavating the foundation. Just disappeared. The official report said it was a structural collapse, but get this. The accident happened in an area that doesn't match any of our current blueprints. I started digging deeper. Probably shouldn't have, but I couldn't help myself. Turns out I wasn't the first person to experience weird stuff. Other night shift workers reported strange things over the years. Books moving on their own, footsteps, and those damn catalog cards showing up with impossible dates on them. Every single incident happened around the same part of the basement, the northwest corner. I talked to Marcus about it during our 2 a.m. coffee break. He told me this story about how back in '95, he heard crying coming from that corner. When he went to check it out, the temperature dropped so fast he could see his breath, and he heard whispering in some language he didn't understand. Marcus isn't the type to make stuff up. This is a guy who's worked there for 30 years, and usually just complains about budget cuts. I know I should have just left it alone, but it was my last week, and something about this mystery got under my skin. I did some research on the missing workers. Their names were James Sullivan, 42, from Ireland, Thomas Webb, 27, from Virginia, and William Foster, 35, ex-Union soldier. All normal guys with families and clean work records. So my last night shift, I decided to investigate. Looking back, this was probably stupid, but I brought my phone to record everything and went down to the basement after midnight. The security cameras in that section had been broken for months. The temperature dropped like crazy as I got closer to that corner. My phone started acting weird. The battery was draining super fast even though I'd just charged it. Behind all these old furniture pieces and boxes, I found something that made my blood run cold. An old door sealed up with ancient mortar. It wasn't on any blueprint I'd ever seen. The air got so cold it hurt to breathe. My phone caught this weird mist that looked like it was forming letters. The recording picked up sounds that still give me nightmares, hammering on stone, men's voices that sounded straight out of the 1800s, and this constant sound like pages turning. When I touched the door, it was warm. That's when I heard it. Someone whispered my name right next to my ear. Not from behind the door. Right next to me. I ran. I'm not ashamed to admit it. The next morning, I came back to get my stuff, telling myself I'd imagined everything. But there was a card on my desk that hadn't been there before. It looked ancient, but it had yesterday's date on it. The message said, "Thank you for finding us. We've been waiting so long." Here's the part that makes me feel sick. There was a fingerprint on it in what looked like coal dust. I reported it. Yeah, I actually reported it, and they analyzed it. The fingerprint matched a sample from an old work glove they had in the archives from 1897. It belonged to William Foster, one of the missing workers. I turned in my recordings before I left. The specialists said they were some of the clearest EVPs they'd ever heard. You can hear 3 different voices talking about building a special room for something they called the collection. I've been asked to go back for follow-up investigations, but I won't. Something should stay buried, you know? The door is still there, sealed up in that basement. I heard they keep that section restricted now, marked as structurally unsound, but sometimes the security cameras catch this weird mist-forming letters, spelling out pieces of stories that aren't in any of the library's books. I don't work there anymore, but Marcus still texts me updates sometimes. He says they're still finding those cards in the old catalog, with dates that don't make sense and titles of books that don't exist. I don't expect anyone to believe me, and honestly, I'm not sure I would believe it if I hadn't experienced it myself. I just needed to tell someone. Has anyone else ever experienced anything like this in old libraries? Or heard any stories about the Library of Congress?